live about different content creation tools. So it's contentclub.excaliburpress.co.uk. Definitely worth checking out in case there's any there that you haven't used or checked out. So the Natalie Hancock's session was more of a, let me just grab the information. Natalie's session was more, I suppose, exercise driven, and it was about storytelling for digital video. And do I have some information about Natalie? So she is the digital video trainer for BBC Academy, and she's a former producer, reporter and writer across TV, radio and online. And she can be found at NatSauce. So she was talking a little bit about, some of the budget constraints, and how using Skype can work really well for doing interviews and things like that. She showed us some examples. There were lots of examples in Natalie's session, so it's kind of hard to convey an awful lot of those. She coined a phrase. I don't know if she coined the phrase or it was a phrase that was talked and that is, I don't know, used quite a lot. I've never used it certainly, but tragedy tourism, and she talked a bit about Grenfell with that. So she did tell us that a fifth of the audience leaves video after just 3 seconds. That's just 3 seconds, which is sort of the same as what Rowan said. She said you have 3 seconds to grab someone's attention. And what you want to be doing is you want to be sort of breaking it down into 3 parts, part 1, 2 and 3, regardless of how long this is going to be, whether it's seconds, minutes or whatever. And you want to leave people with some, what's happening next, leave them with a feeling of that they're, there's something else after this. But yeah, as I say, it was a very practical session. It's really hard to I didn't take notes at it. It was kind of like one of those ones where you're more brainstorming with other people and commenting and discussion. So it's very hard to give feedback on the takeaways from that. But my takeaways from that, I suppose for me, as a content creator, as a journalist, as someone who has pivoted from standardised journalism into the digital world and also corporate content creation, I think for me, and also as a publicist, maybe, it's changed my opinion. And it wasn't necessarily the session itself, but more the people in the room. So there was a really lovely wide variety of people of all ages, many students in there, many people who were working for production companies, and then a couple of people round about my age or over who, were embracing new digital media, etc., etc. And what really stood out for me was that absolute need to collaborate, because we can't possibly know it all. We can't possibly know how, certain people's minds work all the time. So for me, it really sort of reinforced that idea of having the right collaborators on board with you. And that's probably one of the reasons that we have quite a wide network of about 12 or so content creators, writers. We've even poets, we've got producers, we have comedy writers, we have news and politics journalists, we have PR writers, we've got marketing people, and the reason for that is because that multitude of skills is really important for what we do for our clients, because our clients need lots and lots and lots of different skills around the area of publicity, press, promotion, marketing, PR, whatever it is that you want to call it. But yeah, so it was a very interesting session, definitely worth getting along to. But as I say, it was very practical. And I kind of prefer the ones where you're like writing lots. It makes me feel like I'm learning more. So the last session that I went to then was again with Steve Rawling, and there was a few overlaps with his first session. This one was storytelling tricks for short form, and I really, this was probably maybe the best session of the day for me. I would say so, yeah. But yeah, it was very good. So he talked about when and where you are shapes the attention of the audience. So if they're on the bus to work or if they're sitting at home on the sofa, you get two different kind of attention spans. And then he sort of overviewed, well, why do we tell stories? Number one, to get attention. Number two, to feel connected. And number three, to understand the world. Steve also pointed out, I thought this was really interesting as well. Back in the day, we watched Grange Hill, whereas now the kids are watching vloggers. And why is that? We watched it to learn how to be a teenager. They are watching the vloggers to learn how to be a teenager. And then he brought up again Buzz Sumo, and they highlighted their top, their top 9 3-word combinations for headlines. And I love these. I've made a note of them. I'm going to use them. So number 1 was "This is why," then "X reasons why," then "X things only blah blah blah," "Can you guess?" and then "Blah de blah is what happens blah de blah. Blah de blah will make you blah de blah." Do you get what I'm saying? So, X, melt your heart, X tears of joy, X Twitter reacts to, X. And so if you check out Buzz Sumo, BUZZSUMO, you'll find more of that. So he talked about story triggers in this noisy world of ours, and the story tricks that can work on a deeper level. There were some really nice quotes in Steve's presentation. One of them was, "Our minds exist to predict what will happen next," and that was from Brian Boyd, who wrote The Origin of Stories. And then Steve talked about theory of mind. That when I know something that when I know that that I know something, and then there's this experiment they do with kids around 2-3 years old where they can prove when and where the theory of mind, and it's that idea that you can conceptualize that other people are thinking in a different manner. He used Vicky Pollard as a great example of that, because she is unraveling the theory of mind as the madness kicks in. There was lots of examples in Steve's as well. He did share his slides actually on his Twitter feed, which I think is at Steve Rawling. I'll just double check while I rec this. So yeah, it's twitter.com Steve Rawling, RAWLING, and yeah, there he has the slides of both of these, so it's definitely worth looking at. So then he talked about rules, cheats and rebels, which is super rich territory for storytelling, and he explained that whenever you hear a rule in a story, it's going to be disobeyed. Otherwise, there can be no story. And he took that quote from Christopher Booker, The 7 Basic Plots. And it's not just rule breaking as like laws. It's, those social norms. Because you expect the cheat to be punished. You expect the rebel to be vindicated. And Jonathan Hyde from The Righteous Mind said, "Break a rule, trigger a story." Love that. So then what he pointed out was that there are 6 basic triggers then, and he kind of, interestingly, he sort of separated them off into kind of liberal and conservative kind of. So on one's, because it triggers that type of person. So on the liberal side, it was care versus harm, fair versus cheating, and liberty versus oppression. And then on the other side of that, it was authority versus subversion, loyalty versus betrayal, and sanctity versus degradation. And he said that a great example is Vice, where the website Vice, inequality is something that works really well for them since they started to go much more political. And then other sort of story triggers are virtual signalling, and story tricks, emotional gifting, for example. So what he says is, you want to give an emotion to the person who is watching. And let me see. Yeah, so there was lots of sort of, if you go into his slide, I definitely think you should look at his slides, because he then identified these wonderful story arcs. So there was the roller coaster, the rags to riches, the fall from grace, the recovery, and the pride and fall. There is no point me trying to explain these. I have scribbled and designed, and there's lines all over the page. I get it because I'm looking at it. But if you take them one by one, the rags to riches is the kind of I can do it story, a bit like Cinderella, Rocky, the X Factor. Number 2 is fall from grace. In other words, bad deeds will be punished. Looking at Macbeth, looking at Harvey Weinstein case, investigative journalism, etc., etc. Then there's number 3, which is recovery. I can learn something from this. And then there's pride and fall. Don't get carried away. Don't with yourself. And then lastly, there was quest. So we're on a journey together. And the challenge in that one is to find the positive. So that was my day at BBC Digital Skills Academy, and I was there from 9:15 right through to about 5:30, and I've managed to distill it into less than an hour for you, so I hope it is of use. Definitely I would look up some of those people: Steve Rawling, Rawling, Natalie Hancock, then look up Rowan Carrick, and then some of those some of the commissioners, such as Justin Binding, Emma Dunseith, Cordelia Hebblworth, and Fiona Blair. So thank you so much for catching up with us at the Content Club. This is just a little extra podcast, which it's not within our episodes, so it's going to go straight out today. And if there's anything else you'd like me to do a podcast on, please do let me know. I've got lots and lots of subjects that we're going to be looking at, but I would really love to be able to react and respond to some of the ones that you want. Again, as always, you can grab some tips and stuff off contentclub.excaliburpress.co.uk. We also have a Facebook group which you can find under the Content Club, and I can be found on Twitter at Tina Calder, Instagram at Tina Belfast, on Facebook /Tina Calder Journo, and I'm also on LinkedIn. You can't miss me at all. So thanks so much, everyone, and have a lovely day.